Hi, and welcome to another episode of Natural Fertility with Dr. Jane. I, of course, am Dr. Jane. I'm a naturopathic doctor and a natural fertility expert. And today I want to talk to you about the unhinged things that I do in my practice that allow me to have a 70% success rate that will probably make other practitioners scratch their heads. See, part of my vision is to redefine fertility care worldwide. I see the fertility rates are plummeting. Male fertility, female fertility, childhood diseases are on the rise, chronic diseases on the rise. And the stories that you guys tell me when we sit in front of one another and have, our fertility strategy session, or something that I hear on social media, or any of my other practitioners, it absolutely breaks my heart because the care that you are being provided is horrendous. And my hope is to set a new standard for natural fertility care. And we're going to do that by following cutting edge research. We're going to do that by running advanced lab testing and figuring out the holistic treatments and maybe some conventional treatments as well to support true healing for both partners. If we genuinely want to change what we are seeing in the world today, which is, like I said, the plummeting fertility rates, the childhood diseases, the complications during pregnancies, the chronic disease rise, we need to do things differently. And, my mission, you've probably heard me talk about this quite a bit, is like, I want to help couples who are struggling with fertility to conceive and bring healthy babies home. But our work really extends far beyond conception because it is about building generational health. When we support future parents, aka you, in your healing journey, that impact ripples into every part of life. We see stronger families, we see healthier communities, and we see a more balanced planet. I really do believe that all of these things are connected. The way that we nourish ourselves, the way that we relate to one another, the way that we care for one another, the way that we care for the earth, it is all connected. And so my goal is to help decrease the reliance on the pharmaceuticals, lower the burden of disease, including infertility, and really just restore health. One of the things that I say all the time, and this my belief deep down to my core, is that pregnancy is a natural process. So if it's not happening, something is missing. And I don't say that to make you feel broken, that like, well, I guess I'm just faulty. I think that's what the conventional system does really well. And then they just offer pharmaceuticals or procedures and treatments like IVF or IUI, any form of ART really. The point when I say that is something is missing and we need to be listening. It's not that you're broken. It's that your body is maybe missing some nutrients that doesn't allow it to ovulate or to have an immune system that's regulated or blood sugar that's regulated, or there could be some hidden inflammation and oxidative stress that you're just not aware of, but something is off. And so what I've been saying is, if you're not getting pregnant, it's not that you're broken, it's that your practitioner is missing something. And so I have 6 things today that I want to share with you that are unhinged. And the reason I say that is because, to be honest, I have no idea what other practitioners do, but I'm going to share some of the things that I am doing that allow me to have the 70% success rate and allow all of our practitioners, all of practitioners that work under me, to have the same success rate and to really support couples on a much deeper level. And the reason that we're able to do that is because we're doing things differently. So I'm going to share those 6 things with you, and in hopes that it will help you see and identify the gaps in your journey. And if our approach aligns, I invite you to schedule a fertility clarity call with us to connect and see if we're the right set of practitioners to help you, because if we are, we'll show you what that looks like. And if we're not, we'll make sure to point you in the right direction. I genuinely believe if you want to heal, you're going to need some help. Nobody has done it alone, including myself. And it's going to take a team, especially if you've been struggling with infertility for a long time. So if you've been trying to conceive for more than 2 years, it's a really big red flag for me. And it just like as a practitioner, but also as a woman. And if I put myself in your shoes and if I was struggling for 2 years, there would be, a lot of a lot of worry and anxiety. And I know that you're feeling that as well, but essentially you're just given such poor options, or you're told, well, keep trying and maybe it will happen. Or here you can just do IVF. And that's a really big deal, to just sign up for IVF. So, and not know why you're not getting pregnant in the first place. So I have a lot of content around that, but in hopes that as you see this process and my thought process, and if you're aligned with the mission and the vision that I just shared with you, then hopefully it will help you get yourself in the right direction so you feel like you're actually making progress, and then we can get, pregnant in 2026. So the first thing that I do is, and we do as a practice, is I don't prescribe anything until I have data. And that data comes in the form of tracking your own data. So like understanding your sleep, understanding your diet, your lifestyle, your stressors, your digestion, nutrition, like literally understanding what is going on in your system, what are the inputs and the outputs, and where there is mismatches, and then a lot of lab testing. Now, if you haven't been struggling to conceive for a long time, you might not need a lot of testing, but my recommendation is always to test. It doesn't matter if you've been trying to conceive or not. There's always something to work on because we live in this day and age. There's a lot of environmental stressors. There's a lot of stressors in general, psychological stressors. There's a lot of things that have changed over the last 100 years that our biology is still trying to catch up to, and is adapting, but not in a good way. The biology is becoming weaker instead of stronger. So adaptation can happen both ways. When we're adapting, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good adaptation. So my rule of thumb in all of my practitioners is we do not prescribe any supplements. We do not prescribe any diet or lifestyle changes, and definitely no kind of, yes, you should do, you're going to need some ART, you are going to need this medication, until we see concrete data. And sometimes we meet with my patients and I'm like, this is for sure PCOS, even though it has not been, diagnosed officially yet. And I have in the back of my mind, like 5 or 10 things that I can recommend this person right off the bat, knowing that this is very likely PCOS, the blood sugar dysregulation, the high stress, not the insulin resistance, the androgen excess. But I don't, because I don't know what's causing that PCOS for that person yet. I also don't know her life. I don't know what time she goes to bed, what time she wakes up, what is her schedule like in terms of the stressors that she has throughout the day, what is her capacity at, what is she operating. Is she constant, like she already has 20 things that she's trying to do, and then I'm going to give her 5 more things to do? That's probably going to make things worse versus trying to help her unload the plate and prioritize. Obviously, recommendations in terms of diet, if we want to make them specific, we need to understand what the person is putting into their body on a regular basis, and more importantly, why are they making those choices? So we blame the diet a lot of the times for, I'm just craving sugar and I know I should do better. And I hear that in my patient's voice all the time, where they blame themselves for the choices that they're making because they know they should be doing better. But I always try to ask, well, why do you have those cravings? What do you get when you eat a certain things, or when, you're reaching for a glass of wine, or maybe it's pot or nicotine or whatever it is that you're using to self-soothe yourself, right? You're essentially trying to soothe your nervous system. So I'm not going to give you any recommendations until I truly understand you as a person and what your life is like. So then when we make those recommendations, you're not pulling yourself in multiple directions and hoping something is going to work. We're going to channel that energy all in one place so we can actually start having momentum, and then everything else becomes noise. And so canceling out the noise becomes a lot easier and simpler when we have data in front of us. Of course, the labs are really, really important, you guys. And I'll share a little bit more information on my, next podcast around some of the personal testing that I've done and redone on myself and my husband. And every time we retest, and usually every 3 or 6 months, one of us is redoing some kind of testing, and whether that's blood work, stool analysis, a urine analysis, saliva, or something, because of course I am always learning on myself and my husband. And there's things that are changing. And then I'll notice that I'm like, I'm getting stuck. I don't know what's happening. Let me take a look at the lab. So it's so powerful to have this information, because instead of going to a health food store and literally picking up every single supplement that you see that you heard on the internet, or now just ordering it on Amazon and saying, oh, I need CoQ10. Oh, I need this NAD. Oh, I heard about this probiotic is supposed to be really great. And just doing all of these things without knowing if you need it, and then without knowing what are the metrics that you're tracking to see if this is actually helping you or not. And not necessarily in the lab work, but I've had people start a certain dose of progesterone, and even myself, and literally that same night, my HRV, which is a marker of stress, increased dramatically, which is a good sign, because it means I'm now switching into parasympathetic mode versus sympathetic. And I have patients message me all the time, and I tell them, watch your data as you start this new protocol. And sure enough, we can see that data change. And so when the data isn't changing, it is actually a sign that we're moving in the wrong direction. And we want to have that information right away instead of, 3 months, 6 months. I mean, I have patients all the time in our Fertility 101 program. They're like, yeah, this practitioner put me on these supplements and it's been 3 months. Do you feel better? No. Okay. So maybe that's not the thing that you should be doing then, because you don't feel any difference. So I stand pretty hard by this rule that I do not prescribe anything, even though people are like, but should I be taking this? Would this be beneficial? What about folate? Methylfolate instead of folic acid? Definitely don't take folic acid, but I have no idea if you need folate versus folinic, if you need hydroxycobalamin versus methylcobalamin, the different types of B12 and B9 or B6, B3, B5. It all really depends on your lab testing, and we can create a bit of a mess when we're not testing. So when I go back to my vision and I talk about setting a standard for natural fertility care, medicine is personalized. We need to personalize medicine. If we don't test, we cannot personalize medicine, period. So we don't prescribe anything until we have data. And I promise you, if you apply that rule to yourself, whether you ever work with us or you work with somebody else, that should be a huge red flag for you when you walk into an office. And whether it's a medical doctor, a naturopathic doctor, a functional medical doctor, I don't care. Any provider that says you need this and they know very little about you, that's a big red flag. And I say that because that's how I used to practice. And I understand that spot, because you just want to help the person, and you know that they're tired. If I just give them some B12, they will feel better. Or if I just give them some iron, they will feel better. There is some truth to that, but there's a lot of non-truth to that, meaning you never really understand why that person is tired. Is it really their B12? And if their B12 is low, why is their B12 low? And what other markers that are involved in making energy that do include, like the methylation pathway that also includes the B12, is also low? Or iron, that's a whole other podcast. But if we don't understand why iron is low, iron is an inflammatory marker, and it is critical to have a perfect balance of iron in the body. We have too high, and there's lots of issues with really high iron. We have it too low, and there's a lot of issues that come there as well. If we start supplementing iron without understanding why iron is low, you can create a very big mess. And I have done that on myself, and I have done it for other patients who, of course, I'm not seeing anymore. But when I first started practicing, my intention was to help, but my knowledge wasn't there. And so because I didn't help those patients in the way that I wanted to help them, that's what made me push myself to develop myself more, because I believe so much in the body. I just believe that the body is an incredible machine. It's capable of healing. And so if it's not doing what we think it's supposed to be doing, we are missing something. Similarly to if you're not getting pregnant, something is missing. And I don't believe that the body is a faulty machine. I believe it is a perfect machine, but it doesn't necessarily have all the tools that it needs. And so our job, and my job as a practitioner, is to help you figure that out, because that's what I do for myself, and my family every single day. So point being is, we're not going to recommend any supplements because we don't, or any diet or lifestyle changes, because I don't want you to waste any time, energy, or money on something that's not going to work. So short term, it's going to feel a lot worse to spend a bunch of money on testing. Long term, you're going to save yourself thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when I say hundreds of thousands, like the changes that my patients feel far beyond working with us. Not only do they now have this healthy, bubbly baby that they absolutely love and adore, but they have decreased their own chance of developing heart disease, diabetes. They've lost weight. They are different people, and they're no longer afraid of getting cancer or like having an autoimmune condition or Alzheimer's or whatever it was that was running in their family that they were really worried about. They feel in control of their health. Okay, so when I say it saves you hundreds of thousands of dollars on the back end, that's what I mean. When you understand how your body works and you feel in control, you're no longer scared of developing these diseases. And let's face it, these diseases, whether it's for yourself or your kids, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to have sick children and to be sick in general. So that's number one. I'm not going to go through that much detail in every single one, but that one is really important. And I genuinely, like, even when patients are like, should I be taking this? Should I be doing that? I'm like, I don't know until we see the data. Let's focus you on getting the lab testing. Then we're going to collect some more data. And usually I get them to get some kind of tracking device so I can see them. I'll get them to record what they eat for a week. And like, we'll take really deep history. I'm like, I want to understand what you do day to day, so then I can make recommendations that are actually going to move the needle forward for them. So that's number one. The second thing, as my kitty comes to join me, is I don't recommend prenatals. I know that might sound crazy, but I see so many, I get, the algorithm obviously knows I'm a holistic natural provider, natural fertility expert, and I get targeted for a lot of prenatals. And I have stopped recommending them. Now, when I first started practicing, I recommended them a lot. And even when I just switched to fertility care 5 years ago, I recommended them a lot. And I would just have like 2 or 3 of my favorites. And then I started working under Dr. Leah Hitchman. So I have been under her mentorship for the last 2 years. And I have taken every single course that she has offered so far. I'm a little bit crazy like that, but to be honest, when I find someone who I knows more than me and is really like humble and smart and research driven and like patient result driven, she has a year waiting list and she specializes in fertility. Like, just let that sink in for a second. A year waiting list, and she's in the fertility space. And she's seen some of her patients continue to see her. She's, seen them for over 20 years. So she's a phenomenal practitioner. So if I find someone who's going to be really great, I'm going to learn as much as I can from them. So what I have learned from her, though, is when you do proper testing, when you do like all the nutrient panels, all the blood work, the genetics, even methylation, stool analysis, and you understand all of these markers, then you do not need to take a prenatal, because you know what the person needs, because you have the tests right in front of you. And so then the prenatal kind of becomes noise. Instead of the prenatal being a safety net, it's like, well, I don't need a safety net because I know exactly what this person needs. So I actually, to be honest, did not feel comfortable removing the prenatal up until about a year ago, because I did not feel confident in my knowledge and some of my creation of supplements until it was just time, and then seeing and more testing and seeing how the patients responded, and very much coming to a place where they're like, yeah, I can't give you a prenatal because you don't need it. I have you on these specific mineral complexes, on these specific B vitamins, on this specific amino acid complex. You're taking these, these nutrients over here. That's what you need. versus the prenatal is kind of this generic supplement. Now, if you're not taking anything at all, should I take a prenatal? Sure. Remember, I'm not here to prescribe individual. I'm here to tell you what's working in my practice. And then you need to filter out and figure out what's going to work for you and what isn't. I want desperately for you to just start ordering supplements because you saw a deal on something, because you saw an influencer do it, because your friend swore by it, whatever. Medicine is personalized and it's highly, highly individual. So if we just stick a prenatal, even with the best nutrients possible, it is still going to be generic unless that prenatal is specifically made for you. And, that is doable. There's people who are doing that, but then you're going to you're going to a compounding pharmacy to have that created for you based on your testing. And that's kind of next step, I think, in my practice as I figure out some locations to work with. So then you don't, if you're not taking like 7 different pills of B vitamins, but that could be just compounded specifically for you in one dose, in one pill. But then it has to be still compounded specifically for you. So that's my second thing. I don't recommend prenatals anymore. My third thing is I don't recommend anything based on age. And I think that's really important. One of my patients is 45. We are giving them 3 months to conceive naturally, and then they're going to go through IVF. They did a bunch of rounds of IVF before me. The embryo quality was all really poor. They blame it on her age. Turns out it was sperm quality more than it was egg quality. And we know this now because when I first met them, I was like, let's just do test analysis. Obviously, you guys are older, 45 and 50. This is, we need to do our due diligence. We did all the testing. And when I looked at her stuff and I was like, your stuff looks pretty good, man. But this sperm is quite concerning for me. And the conventional system just did not flag it at all. They just literally said, well, embryo quality is egg quality. And it's like, no, it's not. Embryo quality is sperm quality just as much as egg quality. It's 50-50. Thank God they found another good IVF specialist who has a bit of a holistic mindset. And she said the same thing. So after 6 months of working together with this couple, they're now, they reached out because I said, hey, well, let's try naturally for 3 months now. And then if you guys want to make sure we don't miss a chance to have a baby, like we might still need to use ART, but now we've brought both of them on board and we've done some work. But she said the same thing. She was very impressed with her numbers, her hormone health, her ovarian follicle count, all of this stuff. But the sperm was quite concerning. So she's running more testing, which is fantastic. And then we're going to, I'll keep you updated, but we'll find out. We'll find out what happens and retest the sperm again. We have been doing some work, so my hope is that the sperm is much, much better. I don't know if we have enough to do a natural conception, but I definitely think we've done enough to do ART and have a different outcome than they have before. But when this couple had a consultation with this, IVF specialist who also has a bit of a holistic background, she essentially sent my patient, and my patient sent this to me, a list of all the things that she would do for her. And there was like 4 or 5 things, PRP, NAD shots, rapamycin, which is, a medication that has been shown to improve egg quality. There was a couple other things that I can't remember off the top of my head now, but there was a lot. And I was like, so why do you need the PRP? If you said, she's like, oh, she just recommends it for everyone over the age of 42 because it couldn't hurt. And I was like, wow, it actually could hurt. It could hurt. Ovaries don't want to be messed with. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if all of your numbers are looking really great, then why do we need to do more? Because now we are coming from a place of fear instead of trust. And age is absolutely a component that I look at, but I also just look at each individual person. So right therapy, right person, right time. And just because someone is over a certain age does not mean that we jump in and we start doing all the peptides. Peptides was another thing that she recommended. the peptide injections, the PRP, the rapamycin, the metformin, like whatever is in the research, let's just throw it all in there. We have to look at the person and see if that's actually going to benefit them. And that's why that first point that I said, I don't do anything until I have the testing, because it makes such a big difference when we have the testing. So the fourth thing is I don't recommend anything just based on research. And I know that sounds crazy, but research is studying the body. We have to treat the person in front of us. And research has not caught up to everything that the wisdom of the body is the wisdom of the body. Our body has incredible wisdom. And if we actually listen to it and go, something isn't right here, let's fix this, and these nutrients are over here, but something isn't lining up, let's try this and see what happens. I think about my clinical practice as me doing experiments. Now, I'm doing a very, very well-educated experiments versus let's just try this and see what happens. It's based on data. It's based on, symptoms. It's based on a lot of lab work, but also understanding that there's a lot of limitation in research that I have, and these posts make me cringe. And I just I notice the reaction that I have when I read some of these posts where they're well-known OBGYNs. They have fantastic credibility. They have a lot of followers. So they're pretty big influencers. And then they'll say things like, the only real research that supports egg quality is for you to quit smoking. We don't have any definitive research on oxidants and antioxidants, on lifestyle, on PRP, on peptides, on whatever. It's just to quit smoking. That's the only thing that we know is definitively going to decrease oxidative damage and improve the quality of the eggs or the sperm for that matter. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious right now? What if you don't smoke? Great. I guess there's nothing else I can do to support my egg quality. Not only is that research limited, it's probably only fed to you by pharmaceutical companies. There's so many papers in Nature, for example. The Journal of Nature has on antioxidants and CoQ10 and NMN and NAD precursors and all of these, even fasting, sleep, exercise, how that supports the quality of the eggs. So I think you have to be careful the research that is being fed to you and the research that you're looking for. And then this is again something that I learned from my mentor, Dr. Leah Hedgman. It's whatever I see in clinic. This is what she told me on one of my appointments, because I'm like, I think I need to be looking at research more. She's like, well, you could be looking at research, but the thing that you're seeing in clinic, that's what you're trying to find in research to prove if it's right. It's not the other way around. So whatever I'm seeing in clinic, the patient sitting in front of me, can I find research to prove it? That this is exactly what I'm seeing and how the body is working, because the research is behind it. It's trying to study the body. The body has inner wisdom. That was a really powerful shift for me in how I practice, because I started to follow my instinct and my intuition, but I always look at the research as well and see what's coming up. But the person sitting in front of me, right therapy, right person, right time, that's what's going to decide my treatment, not this new paper that came out. It's very much, yep, let's keep in mind everything that's evolving and progressing, but what does this person sitting in front of me need right now? So that's number 4. Number 5, I don't recommend fish oils. And I think that goes with number 2, where I say I don't recommend prenatals anymore. Fish oils, I've stopped recommending, probably, again, working with Dr. Leah Hedgman, but at least a couple of years now. There's still some instances where I do. And the only reason that I do that is because I have tried to increase the EPAs and the DHAs in other ways, and whether that was through food, through decreasing inflammation, optimizing gut lining, doing, vegan-based, seaweed-based oils, or flax seeds or, anything that's been vegetarian based oils, and it hasn't come up, and we know that this person, then I weigh out the pros and cons, and then I'll recommend fish oils, and usually it is mackerel, sardines, like really small fish, and cold press, like really high quality, obviously, as much as we can. The big reason for that, you guys, and I don't consider consuming fish as a healthy thing anymore on a regular basis, because the oceans are very polluted. The oceans are not in a good state. There's a lot of farmed fish out there as well. If you actually understood where that fish came from, you would be horrified and you would not want to eat that fish. And I'm sorry if this is the first time you're hearing this and I'm ruining another thing for you. One of my patients the other day is like, why can't you eat cashews? Because I posted something about and obviously I don't eat cashews that often. And I'm like, oh, like cashews, peanuts, and pistachios, they're really high in fungus and yeast, so they're not good to consume on large quantities. And she goes, I had no idea. And I'm like, sorry to ruin another thing. But fish is one of those. I will still eat a little bit of fish once a week is max, but we do really, and usually we'll go through seasons. So if good fish is in season, aka at the farmer's market when they're bringing king salmon, then, from BC, for us, that's the closest. Then my daughter usually asks for it. So she really likes salmon. Sometimes she has mackerel or sardines, and we have the smaller fish. But if we're having the bigger fish or any kind of fish products in general, I am making sure I read where it's coming from, and understanding Pacific Ocean versus Atlantic, and which one's going to be a cleaner ocean. And sometimes people look, they're like, what do you mean a cleaner ocean? I'm like, I mean the one that hasn't had as many oil spills and garbage tanks in it, and garbage island in it. That's what I mean. That is an unfortunate reality. I do believe that, I'm just an optimist. I believe that we can recover from this, but we do really need to be mindful of the oceans. There's a lot of environment is very, very polluted. And the fish, the larger the fish, like for sure tuna, when I see influencers, they're like, I eat this tuna sandwich twice a week because I know mercury isn't good and I'm trying to get pregnant. And it's like, what? If you know it's not good and you're struggling with infertility, you should not be eating this, period. You should not be eating it. And so some of my clients, I don't recommend any fish oils or any fish at all, because we look at their tests and they have really high heavy metals, or they have really high BPAs or any other environmental toxins. We can see that information now. So I don't recommend fish oils. I know that might be crazy. The last thing, number 6, unhinged thing that I do that will make other practitioners scratch their heads, is I include the partner even if he was told that the sperm is fine. We only work with couples. We do not work with just women, because the man is 50% of the equation. When the man is told that he's fine, most of the time he's actually not fine at all. And he was just, the reason that happens is because the doctor didn't actually look at the sperm analysis deep enough, or because I've seen literally so many times where the men were told they're fine, and it's they're clearly not fine. There's no viable sperm, meaning there's no sperm that is alive. There is morphology that's really low. There's concentration that's really low. There's motility that's really low. And they were told that the man is fine. So I don't believe that. And the other reason that that's happening is the parameters on the sperm analysis are actually, their reference ranges are for IVF. Do they have enough to do ART? That's it. Versus what do we need for natural conception? So what I want to see as optimal sperm parameters are often not there at all, even if they are in quote unquote normal range. For example, sperm morphology, anything under 4% will make it hard to conceive naturally. So they look at 4% or more, because that's good enough for IVF. They'll wash it, they'll pick the best one, and they'll go. And honestly, it's like, who's picking it? There's a lot of ethical things when it comes to IVF to really understand what's going to happen and what's going on. For natural conception, we want ideally the morphology over 6%. The same with sperm concentration. They want more than 15 million per mil. I want more than 50 million per mil for natural conception. That's a big difference, you guys. So the same with motility. Oh, anything over 40 or 50% is fine. It's like, I want total motility to be over 70%. Over 70% of the guy's sperm should be moving. And if it's not, and then progressive motility, you want over 40%. And that means that it's moving in the right direction. Like it's progressively moving forward versus, under 20. So there is parameters that I think are just not near, like they're too, the reference range is too small, meaning it's not anywhere close to being optimal. So I always include the partner on board. Now, even if the sperm is fine based on my standards, when I look at it, which to be honest, I have only maybe seen once or twice since practicing for 5 years, I always still include the male, because if the female has a bunch of stuff going on and there's quote unquote a bunch of distress, chances are he also has some of that. He just has a stronger immune system, a stronger metabolism, stronger whatever, and he is not displaying any of the symptoms yet, / she can't get better until he gets rid of his. Because when we're talking about, like, let's say yeast, candida overgrowth, we don't know who started what, and we share the microbiome all the time. I've never seen one partner struggle with candida and the other partner not have any signs or symptoms at all. And so when I test both partners, I can see that, oh, this person is really struggling with this load versus this person isn't, but they still need this help. And so then I really look at it as like future parents. What do we need to help and support these future parents? Because the genetics are going to be passed down 50-50 from the dad and the mom. And then when the baby is born, if I understand the methylation panel, the nutrient panels and all of that, we can see and predict the pregnancy and some things that we need to look out for. And then also postpartum and for the baby, because the first 7 years, the first even 9 years of the child's life, the connection to the mom is so strong. If there's something going on with the baby, we're actually always looking at the mom and the dad, and the mom more so, meaning the connection where if the mom is really stressed, the baby is going to pick up on that because the attachment is, very deep. So I can't tell you how many of my patients are like, oh, and I'm so stressed because of my child. And it's like, I need to understand what's going on for you so then I can understand what's going on for the child, because the child is literally genetics of the mom and dad and then the environment. And they're going to pick up on the environment a lot more than, you are. You're stressed out because of this, but there's other things in the background that we need to unpack. So I find that the man is the anchor in the relationship. And that's very of a masculine energy where it's the foundation, it's the support, it's the protection. If the woman doesn't have that, she tends to get more anxious, more overwhelmed, more ungrounded. And if I can bring the masculine energy in and support, then the feminine energy tends to ground as well. And I find that the transformation is a lot more meaningful. So I always, 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 always include the partner, because we're trying to build generational health. You cannot build generational health with one person. And when I first started practicing as a naturopath, I remember, I was just seeing anybody who wanted help, and I wanted just to tell them about natural medicine. But I would see these moms who are so stressed out, so are anxious, and they're trying, they're bringing their kids. I remember this one mom, we couldn't figure out if it was panda or autism or what, he just had some really bad behavioral issues. And I would have done so many things differently now, knowing the information that I know. And I was just focusing so hard on treating the child. I totally was and I remember we brought her on later, but I was like, let me understand a little bit more about you. And when I understood her, she had, she barely could get pregnant because she was like missing her cycles and potentially had PCOS and all of these other stresses and infections and immune system. And the birth was really traumatic. And like once he was born, there were so many issues right off the bat that she never really has come up for air. And I hope that, and I actually kind of ended up recommending her to go to somewhere else who specializes in these kind of neurological, like pandas or any other behavioral issues. But the quote unquote mistake that I see now is that we just focus on the child and we completely disregard the mom and the dad. We're like, okay, well, things need to be calm in this. But as a mother, what I have learned when I figure things out on myself, when my energy is in tune, when my nervous system is regulated, my children are in a much better place. The way that they behave, the way that they choose, the choices that they make with food, everything. I'll even use like my last night as an example. I crashed last night. We just came back from a trip and I just crashed and everybody crashed. Like my children slept really well. We all just had a reset. Versus when I stay up late and I work a little bit, they'll always come in the room and they'll always check and then, the next day it's like, yes, they still sleep well. But at nighttime, you can feel that they feel my buzzing energy and they don't go to bed until sometimes I go to bed. So if we as a mother learn to understand our energy in the influence that it has on the household, whether you have kids or not yet, it makes a really big difference because you start to understand if I ground myself, if I regulate my nervous system, if I get my health in order, not only does my whole family feel better, of course, I feel better, but I'm actually be able to tune into things a lot sooner. So my kids don't get sick because I tune into them and I know exactly when they start to get overstimulated and when to bring them back. So I don't wait until they're so stimulated that their system crashes because I'm tuned into them. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times, of course, where it just happens, but I also have this, space to know what to do. That's a powerful skill that I've been learning for the last, 15 years and what I want to teach my patients, because there's nothing that gives you more confidence as a mother, as a woman, to know what's going on in your body or to know what's going on in your baby's bodies and be actually able to help them instead of having to take them to the doctor who's not going to see them, who's just going to give them Tylenol, who's just going to give them some kind of antibiotic and not explain anything to you. There is nothing more fulfilling than it being able to take care of your children like that. And so that's the gift that I want to pass down, and I do pass down to all of my patients because I think that's where medicine needs to change. If we want to set a new standard for natural fertility care, for natural care in general, this is what I think about. I think about empowering you to understand how your body works, what is missing, what you need, so then you can heal it and then be able to see that in the family around you, because we as mothers are caretakers. So we're going to take care of everybody. That's just what we do. Our brain literally develops from, being a child in the teenage years to becoming a caretaker and tuning in to other people's needs. The problem is when we tune into other people's needs before we tune into our own needs, we deplete ourselves. And then we're running thin. We have no idea what's happening. And we're just frantically trying to take care of everybody else because that's what we know. The truth is, if you take care of yourself, you'll be able to take care of other people on a much deeper level. And one that's actually not only fulfilling for you, but beneficial for everybody else, because the energy transaction, there's no resentment, there's no sadness, there's no fear, there's no, people pleasing. It's just genuine transaction of energy to like, I see that you're struggling. Let me help you with this because I know what you need. I think every woman can come to that. And we need the man to come and support us, to remind us that, hey, here's the grounding, here's the foundation, here's the protection. And then you can go in, and be the caretaker of the family, but you need someone who's going to ground and protect, and you're going to feel safe. That's really important for the woman. All right. So those are my 6 things. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And like I said, my hope is that you take this information and you go, okay, this makes sense. I am getting a cookie cutter approach, and that's why things are not working. So you need to find a team of practitioners who is going to treat you like an individual snowflake that you are, instead of, you should take this much CoQ10, you should take this prenatal, you should take these fish oils, your partner's fine, so he doesn't need to do anything. And then you should do the PRP and this, because this is all based on research. Great. What about the clinical experience? What about my own individual data? What about my own individual labs? What is the dosage of each vitamin that I need? Explain that to me. The more intention you have behind every action that you're doing, the more potent the medicine is. So when you're just taking a pill and you have no idea why you're taking it, because you heard about it on the internet, it doesn't register. Versus even if you take that same CoQ10 and you go, oh, I need 600 and I need to make sure I take it this because this is going to help and this is the symptoms that I'm supposed to feel when I start taking it, that medicine becomes a lot more potent. And that's true with supplements, that's true with diet, with lifestyle, with everything. The more intentional you can be with your medicine, the more potent that medicine becomes. So remember that. I want to thank you for being here, for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week.